Dominoes keep falling in Florida's political world following the re-election of Donald Trump for president. Key positions in Washington are filling up with a Sunshine State connection. Senator Marco Rubio will face a Senate confirmation to become Secretary of State. And 2 congressional seats will be open with Republicans jockeying for position. We're talking to a former Republican Party of Florida chairman and the most recent past mayor of Jacksonville, Lenny Curry. Plus, one of the names floated for the House of Representatives represents people in the River City. Councilman Rory Diamond on the changes ahead and his feelings on a key city concern, the price of trash pickup, on This Week in Jacksonville. So glad you're with us today. Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan was our guest last week. Today, we have her predecessor, 2-term Mayor Lenny Curry, also the former Republican Party of Florida chairman. That's back when I got to meet you several years ago.
Many years ago.
Yes, exactly. But I kind of wanted to lean into some of that experience for you and ask first, it's been a year and a half since you left City Hall. Are you retired from politics or just taking a break after those 8 years downtown?
Taking a break, actively involved in making sure that good candidates are elected to local offices, statewide offices, and including national offices. So I remain decades of investment in this, and I want good people in office and will continue to be in the game.
And that stays true to what we talked about back in 2010, 11, 12, when I was first getting to know you a little bit. What makes a good candidate? What makes someone a person that you say, yeah, you need to serve, you need to run?
Well, you want someone that's, in my view, you want someone that's got some good life experience, you know, has done and seen other things so they understand what people's daily lives are.
Yeah.
I'm of the belief, like, there's great public servants that have spent their entire careers in politics in elected office, and they've served well, but I think there's real value in having been in the private sector, having understood what people go through and live on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. Lots of common connections, excuse me, for you with the successful Donald Trump for president campaign here. What does it mean for Jacksonville, for Florida, that people like Susie Wiles will be serving the nation in the White House?
It's surreal. I mean,
a little bit,
this
right?
is a person that I'm known for many, many years, that is a friend. And I'm seeing pictures of her in the White House, profiles written on her. It's good for Jacksonville. Susie loves Jacksonville, remains here when she's not working for the Trump campaign and now in the Trump White House. So I expect that this is going to be both good from a visual standpoint. Jacksonville's even more on the map now. And also in terms of, you know, bringing federal tax dollars that we pay back home.
Yeah, she's not the only person that you know because of not just Jacksonville, but statewide politics who are involved in the transition here. President-elect Trump has really leaned into a lot of people from Florida, hasn't he?
So Brian Hughes, I met when I was at the Republican Party of Florida over a decade ago. And then when I decided to run for mayor, he worked at the party then in communications. He ran my first campaign, and we won. And over the years, I continued to work with him, get political advice when I was doing policy stuff. And then I brought him in. He was my chief of staff at the mayor's office. Then he was the chief administrative officer. And he was just one of the strategic people, very active and involved in the Trump campaign, and remains involved in transition. So very smart, strategic person. Lived in Jacksonville for years when he worked in the city hall, so also good for Jacksonville.
He was on our show earlier this year.
I saw that.
Yes, exactly, because, hey, if you want to serve, you want somebody to talk about Trump, here I am. It was great to connect with him there. Some of these other nominations appointment, you know Senator Marco Rubio well. What do you think? He's in the appointment or position here where he's nominated. He'll have to have Senate confirmation. It doesn't seem like there will be much pushback on having him as Secretary of State.
Yeah, I don't see much pushback there. I don't think there'll be many challenges, and just watching all of the national news, there's not noise around that one.
Yeah, noise about others. I'll get to that in a moment. But what do you see Senator Rubio bringing to that role as Secretary of State?
Well, anybody that's ever watched him over the years speak on foreign policy, I mean, it's clear that he understands it. It's clear that he studies it. It's clear that he knows it. He's not just going off of talking points. He's also a great communicator, a great listener, and a great connector with people, which is going to be important when you're representing the United States on the world stage.
Yeah, pretty pretty important
It's
role
another
there.
surreal one.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
my kids
How long have you known?
My kids have talked to him on the telephone when they were little.
Have you known him 15 years longer because of the Florida House? I mean, he's been
at least 14 years.
Yeah, it's incredible. One of the controversial appointments or nominations was Matt Gaetz, the Florida Republican from Congressional District 1. He was tapped by the president as Attorney General. Then he withdrew from consideration Thursday. And let me ask you about this. The timing seems suspicious because he immediately resigned from Congress. There's an ethics committee hearing going on. Because he resigns, the ethics committee says, we're not going to release that report. Was there some kind of tomfoolery going on here, or how do we view this whole thing with Matt Gaetz, who really, when he was first announced a week and a half ago or whatever, it was like, really, I don't think he'll make it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, having been in the public eye, I understand that be very careful to judge just based on what you see in media reports. And so I think what happened was, when he made the announcement that he was withdrawing, I take him at his word that the noise became too much. And in the end, this is really about our country, and this is about the new president, the president-elect, the former president, that won on a mandate, and he needs to have everything available to him to make him successful. So I take Matt Gaetz at his word. I've known Matt for years. I think that he just made a decision that, and again, I haven't spoken to anyone, but this is in the best interest of the president's agenda right now.
It's something that Senator Susan Collins said the day he withdrew, hey, putting the nation above his own personal.
But let me say something about his appointments, if I might, for a moment. You know, others are being criticized and attacked too. We have bureaucrats that have held national office and been appointed, the same people for decades, the same people that got us into recessions, the same people that got us into wars. I mean, on and on and on and on. People are fed up with the same old, same old. They spoke loud and clear when Donald Trump was elected this time, amongst many diverse groups. So it should be no surprise that President Trump will be appointing people that people didn't expect and that maybe aren't business as usual.
Yeah, and it's a little bit, it feels even a little bit different than President Trump 8 years ago. Because of some of those appointments. So let's talk more about that, but we're going to take a quick break and then more with Lenny Curry, the former mayor. We're going to talk a little bit about the city of Jacksonville's annual trade mission to England. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
All right, the 8th mayor of Jacksonville since consolidation, our guest today, Lenny Curry. And one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about, we were just talking about some of the appointments and the transition for the Trump administration. Are you interested in a position in the administration or maybe in one of these openings in Congress that is coming soon to our area in Florida?
Well, so when we opened the show, you asked me if I was remaining in politics. Right. Absolutely remain in. I am not currently seeking any elected office or seeking any position. I will say this, that Susie Wiles knows that I want her and I want this president and this administration to be successful. And in any way that I can be helpful, just like on the campaign, I'm always available to be helpful. But no, I will not be on a ballot, at least anytime soon.
Okay. All right. Because Matt Gaetz stepped out of the Congressional District 1, because Michael Waltz from our area, from Congressional District 6, has been appointed as National Security Advisor. That's going to be open. There's some talk about other people in Florida. Byron Donalds is somebody I think of who is close and supportive of the Trump incoming administration and was a great surrogate for President Trump during the campaign. Maybe his seat becomes vacant. But let's talk about CD6. So Michael Waltz. What do you think, first of all, about his appointment there, National Security Advisor, and what that means to our area or our region?
Well, I think it's a great pick. I mean, I've known Mike for years. I think I first met him about 7 or 8 years ago, and we've remained in touch. Was the first Green Beret to serve in Congress. Maybe, is there another Green Beret in now? I don't know. I know he was the first. So he's got a great record and a great background, and he's from our area, and I know him, so I think that's kind of cool. Right. But I think it's a great pick, a non-controversial pick.
He's got the background and experience, and he's been the boots on the ground in foreign combat. I mean, it seems like really thoughtful.
And he's got that other piece. After he served, he worked in the private sector, so he's seen it all.
So some of the names being floated in Congressional District 6 include Paul Renner, who's also from Jacksonville and the outgoing Florida Speaker of the House. But he told me this week that he is not going to run. State Representative Bobby Payne, House District 20 from Palatka, has been floated. And then Ernest Audino, retired Brigadier General, but he's been serving as the district director for Michael Waltz. All of these names through there. And our next guest, by the way, Rory Diamond, we're going to talk to him about whether or not he's interested in that. What does it take to be successful in that role when you're coming in on the heels of lots of change, and then there's a short timeline, there's going to be a special election, all of those sorts of things?
Well, to be successful in terms of winning a primary, right?
Right.
We're living in very unique times. There was a time when you could have 3, 4, 5 people in a primary and duke it out. The Republican Party now is Donald Trump's party. That is just, I mean, he won with a mandate. So I would suggest that I would bet on this. If President Trump endorses in that primary, it's game over. So those that want to run, I think it's smart right now that they're doing the work, right? You got to be prepared if the door opens so you can walk through it. But we'll keep an eye and see if, and I would also expect that Congressman Waltz, look, I would expect that he would be in the president's ear about who he might like to see in the seat that he's been in for years.
Well, it'd probably be, from a leadership perspective, probably be good at that point to say, hey, you've served in that. Give me your 2 cents. Who do you think would be good for that, right?
That's
just
what
good
I would
leadership.
expect.
I wanted to talk about a city topic here a little bit if we shifted to local. And it kind of stirred some controversy recently since the Jaguars started playing at least one game every year over in London. City leaders have been working on developing some business relationships overseas. Council auditor's draft report just this last week says that Mayor Donna Deegan on her trip didn't do anything wrong in terms of expenditures. Wanted to lean into your experience here. Why are these trips important, and are they a good use of taxpayer money?
They are important. The chamber puts together a number of meetings with business leaders, targets, that we can potentially bring jobs to Jacksonville, but also it's good branding, right? It is good for the mayor to be seen in London, where our football team is, in an international brand. I have heard some people say, you know, I haven't really paid attention to the scrutiny that closely. I've seen some of the headlines, and but I have seen some pushback. Well, why didn't Lenny Curry get that kind of pushback? Well, I minimized, very proud of my history over 8 years on using tax dollars on travel. Most of my travel was not paid for with taxpayer dollars. There were some. I mean, I also minimized the number of people that went on the trips with me. So I would say it's not a fair comparison, because if you pulled my travel numbers, I haven't looked at them, but my memory's pretty good. I'm probably pretty low.
Right, yeah, that accounting background probably helps.
But
right?
It is important. Yeah, I do think it's important that the mayor is in London representing our city.
Have you seen, in these years since we started doing that, have you seen the impact in Jacksonville because of those business relationships?
Oh gosh, it's been years now, but I remember early in my first term, at some point in my first term, yeah, we had a couple of companies that were direct, that opened up, expanded into Jacksonville as a result of those trips. I don't remember those companies off the top of my head, but there has absolutely been results, tangible results, because of the trip.
Yeah, and we like to report on those things when they happen, just so that taxpayers and viewers do know.
And you did. It's just been so long.
Right.
I'm getting old.
I don't know about that. You just said you've got a good memory right there. As I remembered, this would be a good conversation. Mayor Lenny Curry, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll look to visit with you again.
Good to see you.
All right. All right, well, stay with us, and when we come back, Rory Diamond is here, the JAG officer in the National Guard, former staffer for Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a current city councilman in Jacksonville. What are his aspirations in the coming year? That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Thanks for staying with us today. This is Rory Diamond. You'll recognize him. He's been on our program before. City Councilman, District 13 out at the beaches. So I definitely want to talk about some city issues, but there's a lot going on the national front as well. Tell me what you think about the appointments that are coming out of the Trump transition team and certainly all the Florida connections there.
It's unbelievable. Donald Trump is making America Florida, one appointment after the other. I mean, just think about Susie Wiles. Just, it was a decade and a half ago. She was here in Jacksonville working for the mayor of Jacksonville. Now she's the first White House chief of staff who happens to be a woman, and she's absolutely brilliant. And that's just the start. Marco Rubio going to be Secretary of State. You've got Mike Waltz in District 6. He's going to go be the National Security Advisor. I mean, these are our local folks, and they're going to run the country and, ultimately the world.
Yeah, and a big component of what I talked about with Mayor Curry just a few moments ago. I wanted to focus on Congressional District 6. That's
why
something,
is that, Kent?
Well, because these names have been thrown out. It might be this person, that person, or another, and your name has come up. Is that something you're pursuing or something that you would be interested in?
Well, we've been absolutely overwhelmed with people encouraging us to run, and so it's incredibly flattering and awesome, and you'd be crazy not to want to go up there and join Donald Trump in enacting his agenda. So obviously excited to look into it.
Looking into it.
That's
now,
right, sir.
That's the official phrase when someone, is it an exploratory committee or, hey, I'm just listening to people, or what does that mean?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle for running for Congress, and not
something I've never done before. So that's why
not the
I'm
least of which is when you've got a very popular president who's just been elected. Like, people need to know where he's at on a race like that. So we'll see where he's at first, and then be excited to make some announcements.
So I did want to hear your thoughts on something on the city side. So as a councilman, council members can bring measures. They can bring issues and say, hey, I think we should talk about this. So let's talk about city trash fees. I'm going to consult my notes here. Your colleague on council, Matt Carlucci, says that he plans to push for a raise in garbage collection fees. And his point is that the annual cost for trash pickup is roughly twice as much as residents pay. What do you think about that? And if that's the case, then should people be paying more for trash pickup?
Well, I really think this is coming from Mayor Deegan. She wants to raise taxes all over Jacksonville. This is the first one that they're trying to roll out to, almost double what people are paying for their trash. We don't have to do that. City of Jacksonville does this weird rate review where every 3 years our trash haulers come back and say, hey, we'd like a little bit more money. Every other city in America, every other city does like 5, 8, 10-year contracts and puts them out and gets the best bang for the buck. That's what we ought to be doing. That's good management.
Is that appropriate in times like these? What we've seen in the last 4 years and since pandemic has been the increase of cost of everything. So shouldn't those waste haulers be able to say, hey, by the way, it costs me a lot more to do my job for you?
Yeah, and that's not the issue. I mean, prices are going to slowly go up. That's what inflation ought to do. But we're paying more than we ought to here because we're not doing 8-year contracts. Think about it this way. If you are a trash hauler and you've got to buy a bunch of new trucks, you have to, deal with the cost of those trucks for 8 years, but you've got a 3-year contract from the city of Jacksonville. That doesn't make sense. That's why we're not getting the best bang for the buck and why we ought to redo how we do all of our waste hauling contracts. And then we won't have to do stuff like this, raising taxes on people.
You're one of the voices in city council that says, wait, want to look at the real costs. You would consider yourself fiscally conservative.
Very much so.
Yes, exactly.
Very far on the right on fiscal conservatism.
You just said Mayor Deegan wants to raise taxes on everything. What's the evidence of that?
Oh, well, I mean, she's going to have to. The way the mayor is spending money right now, I mean, she wanted to spend $150 million extra on a stadium deal, which on its own costs $775 million for the taxpayers. Now she wants to do like $1 billion for to move the jail, and then another $100 million.
Isn't that $1 billion jail plan? Isn't that coming from city council though?
Well, so the mayor writes the budget, and the mayor's budget came in and it was like literally tens of $millions into the red, and was very happy to do that. Just keep spending money. Eventually, the bill comes due, and there's only one place to go in Jacksonville if you have an overdue bill and you're the city of Jacksonville, and that's the taxpayers. And so that's where the mayor is pushing us.
Another way is raising revenue, right?
True.
One of the things that we talked about.
That's a tax increase.
Well, that can come from more revenue, can come from development or growth, right? So
absolutely.
We talked about, hey, maybe we should talk about what's going on in terms of growth. When we look at downtown just a week or so ago, a couple of milestones, a groundbreaking and a ribbon cutting, the Phoenix Arts District, this Gateway Jacks project. Are those things that you think are going to make an impact financially for the city of Jacksonville.
Yeah, we hope so, certainly, right? But if you look at what the council auditors, these are our number crunchers, this is what they tell us, is that our growth of our expending is going too high, and it's not keeping up with the growth of people moving here. We had a huge boom in property taxes in Jacksonville over the last 4 to 8 years, right? As all of us know, our houses are going up in value, and therefore our property taxes went up. But that's not happening as fast anymore. But the city of Jacksonville growth is still happening, and all this big spending downtown is still happening. And so the council auditors tell us that we're going to be in the red by hundreds of millions for the next several years unless we do something different.
There's a bit of a cycle to it in terms of revenue and when it goes up or goes down. Final 1 minute. If you were mayor, how would you handle that? Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I think the most important thing is really to grow our way out of this. And so eliminate as much government bureaucracy as humanly possible. If a builder wants to come in and do something downtown, it should take months, not a year or 2 years, to get all of your permits done. That's just one example. Instead of choosing favorites of who happens to be popular with the, elite set downtown, invite every business in Jacksonville, in the state of Florida, and in America, in the entire country to come here and compete. And tell them we'll treat you fairly. This is not a good old boy system here. We'll treat you fairly. We'll get more jobs.
Does that not happen in the DIA right now, or the other mechanisms that are supposed to be in place there?
Look, I love Jacksonville. I love our city. A lot of the things of the city are great, but we are a good old boy driven system of a very few people getting everything they want, and most everybody else thinks they'll just get home cooked if they come here. That needs to get fixed.
All right. Rory Diamond, I appreciate the time very much. Good to see you again.
I love being here.
And thank you. So next time, voters recently re-elected Congressman Aaron Bean. He's going to begin his second term in Congress in January. He's also launched the Doge Caucus for delivering outstanding government efficiency. Mr. Bean is going to be here in studio next time. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17 and online at newsforjax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. And don't forget to check out This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition, our podcast episode this week, looking at the major progress of milestones in downtown. We just spoke about it briefly. We're going to talk in depth about the Phoenix Arts District and Gateway Jacks. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. You'll find it right now on News4Jax Plus.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.